Welcome to the Litchfield Canal. Can you all hear me at the back? Yes. The canal was built between 1794 and 1797 and was operated very successfully for many years, and was a very great success, bringing coal from the Cannock coal fields down towards Burton and onwards. James Brindley had a brilliant idea of building a network of canals. He called it his Grand Cross. He had that idea in 1760, and this was one of the later generation of canals that in fact came on in the sort of canal mania period. The canal was abandoned in 1954 with an act of abandonment, and the canal fell into disrepair. Sections of it were filled in. This section here we have between here and the aqueduct, we're going to walk along today, was left pretty much as it was and abandoned, and the canal bed was still there. However, saplings and tree growth and the wilderness just took over, and when we finally got a grant some 2 years ago to buy this section of land and develop it, we found ourselves with trees literally a foot diameter that had grown from the saplings, and those were right in the channel. I tell you, on New Year's Day, we decided 2 years ago, we would walk to the aqueduct. And I tell you, it took us 3 hours to do it, from here to the aqueduct, 1 kilometre. And by the time we'd finished, we were well blooded, ripped to shreds on brambles and hacking our way through the undergrowth. I hasten to add, today you will not have to take 3 hours to do this walk. We should be there in just about half an hour. But we'll take you down into the canal bed, and we'll walk along the canal bed for a short section, and I'll stop a little bit further up and tell you a bit more. Well, thank you for assembling down here. You are now in the bed of the original Worley and Essington Canal, which we now call the Litchfield Canal. This is the bed. The old boat inn here was an ancient boating inn dating back from pre-1840 days, when the BCN took over the Worley and Essington Canal, and it become part of the Birmingham Canal navigations. Sadly, they took the old bridge out here, which took the old road, and they've built a dual carriageway on the end of it. And unfortunately, the highway authorities don't like humpback bridges in their highways anymore, so we're going to have to lower the canal at this point to go underneath the new dual carriageway to avoid the need for a humpback bridge. So we're going to be putting a lock in here, which will take it down about 1.5 meters, and we will have to take it through at a lower level here. We will have to support the water main where the piers either side come, and there will be retaining walls here to allow boats to moor up and to wait to go into the lock. We will also, between here and the Sand Wharf, which is the next stop, we will be creating visitor moorings for the boat in, and we're going to be creating quite a nice environment round here so that the pub can spill over and the boating can spill over and make use of the pub. Well, this is the site of the old Sand Wharf. There used to be a quarry through here behind us, and in front of you is an old brick wharf where boats would load up with sand and take sand up and down. To those who aren't aware, of course, before the canals came, the biggest load you could get on a bit of transport would be probably 2 to 3 tons on a cart horse. And along came the canals, and suddenly you can move something like 25 to 30 tons of material in a narrowboat, and very effective, and move it over great distances with just one horse towing. So it transformed the whole transport system in the country. We are not rebuilding all the old locks using bricks. There's about coming up towards 200,000 bricks in a lock, and to lay 200,000 bricks in a lock is a task and a half. They must have had scores of guys, I think, who could lay bricks. But we're planning on using slightly more modern methods where we can. But we will have to reinstate the bricks on the face of this section. So lovely wildlife area, and as you walk round the corner, I'll take you just to the end of that tree and stop on your left-hand side in the trees, on the hedge just over the brow. You'll see one of the original BCN marker posts. One of the original cast iron marker posts were put in by the BCN company in about 1840 when they took over the canal, and they did a lot of rebuilding, a lot of upgrading, and they put in boundary posts to say this is part of the BCN. When we arrived on site, we started talking to our neighbours, and one of our neighbours over there on the right hand side is WCL Quarries, and for the last 25, 30 odd years of operation they've worked on generators to power everything in the quarry. And they said, would you mind if we used a piece of your land to get a power supply, which was from here to the quarry? The answer was, of course, yes, on the understanding that we can have a tapping off that to give us a power supply for the deep lock that we need, with pumping facilities, guillotine gates and all sorts of other electrical facilities to get the boats from this level up the 5 metres onto the top of the aqueduct over the M6 toll, which you can see in the distance. We needed to make a contribution, and our contribution was to excavate the trench, and you are standing at the moment on top of a very, very high-powered electrical cable. It's at 1.1 metres deep, so you're well safe, and it's in the middle of the towpath that we're laying on the way further down. A few of our volunteers are out today. I think it's the green team, hedge laying. If you look from the far end, the dogs have got something to say. We've laid something like our green team, led by Roger and his good lady wife, Jean, thank you. Yeah. They have laid, last year they laid something like 400 metres of hedge, and this year they're going to lay the remaining 400 odd metres. They're really hacking into it, and brilliant. It's absolutely fabulous to see. What you see in front of you is the upgraded Heritage Towpath Trail. It's basically sand bed, fill sand. Sand comes free. We've dug a borrow pit down there to create the sand, and we put recycled stone sub-base in between the boards, which we have to place. And this is normally a job being done by the corporate volunteers, and they love it because they can come and they can do a 25, 30, 40, 50 metre section, and they know at the end of a day when they've worked really hard, they're absolutely knackered, there's every bone in their body is starting to ache, that they've actually achieved something. Behind you, you can see a dirty great big hole, which is WCL Quarries. Basically they take sand out and they sell the sand, but they also take in aggregates, various recycled materials, and they recycle all those materials and sell them on outside, like recycled subbase, which is old buildings crushed up, graded, maybe with some sand, and it comes back here and is then sold to us. When that quarry, which is currently put in an extension, plan for an extension to the quarry, when that is finished in about 15 years' time, the end game is that that quarry will become a marina connected at this level to the canal. So that's good news. So when we came here, there was a one-in-one slope down here, another one-in-one slope here, fully covered in trees with a crane brook running through the middle. And one of the jobs we had as part of the SIB grant, which allowed us to buy this section of land, was the 1 kilometre of land. Together we said we would try and build this culvert. And when we received the final approval letter saying we had the money and all the conditions came through, on Christmas Eve, they gave us precisely 7 weeks to build the culvert, buy the land, and basically clear it. But we did it, and it's ours, and with really hard work and using some really friendly, good local contractors, we actually built the culvert, which you're standing on now. We have filled the embankment up. We have also built the channel for the canal behind you, and we've concreted behind it to make a sealed wall. And the next stage now is to start moving on to create the basin and the towpath trail running through here, and a ramp down to gain access to a field we have down the bottom. Well, welcome to the M6 toll aqueduct. Was built in 2003-04, and as part of the construction of the motorway. It had to be built as part of the construction of the motorway, because if we tried to build that today, it would be almost impossible and prohibitively expensive. The foundations for that, the centre pier, go well underneath the fast lanes of the motorway, and just would not be possible. So the guys who were leading the trust at that stage did a fabulous job and made it happen. We're now looking at the Heritage Towpath Trail, and the intention is, over the next few months, we will have a ramp, literally where this heap of soil is here, to take walkers from the towpath up to the top of the towpath, and basically another ramp on the other side to get you down. And it is our intention to have people walking from Brown Hills to the boat inn and back again within the next year. So I wouldn't like to start mentioning some of the troubles we've had in trying to get permissions, permits, licenses, agreements, the necessary bits of land to make that happen. It has been a nightmare. The current plan is to produce a deep lock here, which will be 5 meters deep, with a guillotine gate on the top and a guillotine gate on the bottom. So you come down in the lock and come out through a hole in the bottom of the lock and come into the basin where boats can assemble to come in and out. Between the lock and the structure itself, we will put in pumping, The idea is if we can put pumping in, we can save some of the water that the lock uses. When a boat comes down, it brings down a whole lock full of water, and we're putting in pumps in there to pump the water back up again. We've got a 900 metre pound here at this level going up to the boat, and we have a 400 metre long pound at the top which goes back to Barracks Lane, and there's two large bodies of water, so if we keep pumping between those two bodies of water and keep it refreshed, each time a boat comes down we'll keep pumping that water back up. In our discussions with our friends at Midland Expressway, they were very concerned about some of our less educated youngsters coming along here and taking a breeze block and lobbing it over onto the live traffic. They've asked us whether we can in fact put mesh screens on there up to 6 foot high to raise the parapets to stop the little darlings from throwing breeze blocks onto the traffic. And we have a price for that, and that's the intention. We intend using the £50,000 grant that they gave us to upgrade this to make that happen. If I can get that towpath along the side of the aqueduct fully in use, rather than putting it into the bed of the canal, bed of the channel across there, it's done, it's finished. So we don't have to sort of do things on a temporary measure. I have to put a temporary ramp in here because I need to be able to have the room to build the lock.
Is the bed intact, or would it need lining?
Through here? Interestingly enough, that's a very good question, because not many months ago there was an incident on the green pipe you saw at the start of the walk. That's a 36-inch diameter water main, takes high pressure water from the Lichfield area and feeds it right into Walsall, as it has been done for many years. And there was a problem with that particular water pipe further down, and they had to drain it down. So they needed to empty 1.5 miles of 36-inch diameter water main and put it somewhere. They dumped it into the canal, which we all sort of thought, that's a bit iffy, and then realised that they were actually doing us a favour, because they not only did they dump the water into our canal, but they actually gave us a chance to test the canal. And the water was stood at the far end where you stood at the start of the talk. It was 1.5 foot deep there and was holding water. So we're actually a bit heartened that in fact the canal bed is probably okay.
Yeah. When you got your grant,
yes,
to purchase this land, what was the brief? Had you got to put the footpath in?
No, we made our own brief. We set our own target. We said we wanted to open the Heritage Towpath Trail as a community asset, and that's what we've set about. And this idea that the grant said, the one thing the grant said was to make a transformational change, and I think absolutely we have made a transformational change. A group of school kids came down. There were 14-year-olds, 12 of them on 2 days, consecutive days, and when they arrived on site, I handed them a spade, a shovel and a wheelbarrow and said, there's a heap of sub-base there, can you move it down there, spread it, level it and rake it into position? I tell you, they took one look at the shovel, the spade. What's that? Where's the button? One of the girls was there with her thumbs working really well exercised, saying, Miss, can I go and sit in the van? No, come on out there. And we put that particular girl on a wheelbarrow, and by the end of the day they couldn't prise her hands off the wheelbarrow. She had taken that control of that, and she was giving hell to everybody. Come on lads, you can fill that barrow a bit faster than that. Those guys down there need stone, come on, move. And she was absolutely transformational change. We had made it, and the lads you saw, they're quite happy to take on, those 3 lads particularly, they're happy to lay bricks. They will do almost any job that we set in front of them, and those lads, they are our future, definitely. And they're having crack with all the old fuddy-duddies, and you know, the average age of most of our volunteers is the wrong side of 60, well the wrong side of 60. But any other questions? Failing that, we'll head back towards the pub. Yes, something like that. Yes. Gene. Hey! The A-team. The green team.
I really appreciate you guys turning out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you.
Down